Welcome to the 30th episode of the mini video series, Fridays with Father, on a Thursday. Today we are celebrating the great feast of Thanksgiving, and nothing says Thanksgiving more than a family gathered together with an abundance of food on the table. However, there is much more to be said about this feast other than food and drink. We always ask ourselves, what are we thankful for? But we also need to ask, to whom do we give thanks? And what is the ultimate form of thanksgiving for us, Orthodox Christians? To find out answers to these questions and more, please join me in this episode of Fridays with Father. The year of the Lord 2020 marks the 400th anniversary since the first pilgrims crossed the Atlantic and landed in the New World. That was the year 1620, and the first unofficial Thanksgiving was most likely celebrated the following year. A lot of time had passed before the day of Thanksgiving was officially established as a national holiday. Between George Washington's declaration in 1789 and Abraham Lincoln's proclamation in 1864, Thanksgiving became one of the most prominent national holidays. Citizens from all paths of life celebrate this feast regardless of their religious or ethnic origin. Traditionally, the feast is celebrated by the entire family, gathering together with everyone bringing something to the table. But before we get carried away with the banquet and abundance of food and drink, let us reflect upon a deeper understanding of this feast. The word Thanksgiving has its roots, guess where? Exactly, in the Greek language. The Greek word for Thanksgiving is Eucharistia. Sounds familiar? Yes, the Eucharist. And this is exactly where we learn how to properly give thanks. First and foremost, the question, what am I thankful for, is not complete without declaring to whom am I thankful. If we take Jesus as an example in all things, we will see that he took the time to give thanks to his heavenly Father, even in the most difficult moments of his earthly life. Before he was given up to be crucified at the Last Supper, Jesus gave thanks. In this prediction of his death, Jesus was filled with gratitude. What we learn from this is that even when we feel forsaken, when we struggle, when we find ourselves in a life-threatening situation, there is still time for thanksgiving. Regardless of the circumstances, we must always give thanks to God for everything. Second, Jesus gave thanks in the presence of Judas, the one who would betray him and send him to a painful, humiliating death. This teaches us that even when we are surrounded by those who do not always have our best interest in mind, we must be able to give thanks to God for everything and everyone. And third, just as Jesus gathered his disciples at the Last Supper and said, "Do this in remembrance of me," when we gather around the Thanksgiving table, we must do so in remembrance of all those who came before us and who passed on this wonderful tradition to us. Just as we are connected to Christ through the Eucharist, we are connected to generations of our predecessors who celebrated the great feast of Thanksgiving for the past 400 years. On one hand, for us Orthodox Christians, the ultimate form of giving thanks to God is found in the liturgical gathering and Eucharistic sacrifice. There we sit at the table with the Lord and enjoy the heavenly banquet. On the other hand, we can freely say that the Feast of Thanksgiving is an extension of the Eucharistic gathering and the meal of love where we continue to rejoice and give thanks to God. In closing, if you haven't had enough turkey for today, here's some more food for thought. The Last Supper was held on a Thursday, just as is our Thanksgiving supper. Always remember this and do not allow the spirit of consumerism to take away the real meaning of this great feast in which we are invited to give thanks to God for everyone and everything. Thanks for watching. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, America.